There are several other series of illustrations of Dante's Inferno, and I've looked at some of them, but I was also a little afraid of getting too trapped. I wanted to make it a contemporary version. I mean, all the imagery has to do with the contemporary life, you know, with early 21st century civilization, Western civilization particularly, with, you know, highways and people living under the highways. The saints, on the other hand, you know, I did try to look at some of the pictures of saints. You know, I was brought up kind of Catholic, didn't really practice it, but, and I love these devices of the olden times when people thought in terms of, created the idea of angels and miracles and things like that. And I think we live in a time of angels and miracles and devils and demons, but, you know, they're not as depicted as literally. It's just like a lot of the old Greek things of the, you know, the satyrs and the forests and the mermaids and all those things, you know. And I like the application of imagination to recreate that, you know, that kind of richness of the olden days. The really first sign that was the most striking to me was the huge increase in homelessness. If you see a friend you haven't seen in a long time and they have a rash, they have spots, red spots or something all over their face, and you say, "Oh, how are you?" And they say, "Oh, I'm fine." And you're thinking, well, you don't look fine, so I'm not going to say, "Oh, you look great," because you don't. But to me, the homelessness, you drive through one of the American cities now, and you see people in tents, you see people staggering around asking for money, many more than we used to see, many, many more. And so for me, the homeless thing is almost like a rash on the face of our society and our civilization. That was really the first thing. But now there are many more things, you know. The number of wars have increased, and the wars are never wars where we've really been attacked. Well, they seem to be wars of aggression, you know, and they go on for a long time, and no sooner does one end than another one starts. That seems kind of dystopian to me. Camilla's house is a recovery house, a very successful and highly regarded recovery house here in Miami. And that's where I teach and teach art. I found out, kind of by accident really, that they had an art program. And I thought that would be something very interesting to me to do that, you know. Yeah, as far as how teaching art to homeless and recovering, and also I have a group of women who are trafficked women, definitely very vulnerable people. Affected my own work, not in ways that it's easy for me to necessarily identify. I was already doing portraits of myself as homeless people and different situations like that. Certainly with materials and approach, you know, it's taken me back down to earth a little bit to work with people who, you know, are not that familiar with art. And they work with colored pencils and they work with glitter and crayons sometimes, you know. So I've, you know, experimented with crayons, and that's led to doing these photos that are hand tinted using some of the hand tinting materials, but colored pencils, you know, and glitter, and to take a more sort of primary or fundamental approach to you know, picture making and image making. The work of using myself and doing photography is work that I started doing, I guess, about 15 years ago. And before that, I was essentially a painter, sometimes a sculptor, and sometimes an installation person. When I started working in performance, something I never expected to do, obviously, I was the object of those works as a performer. I discovered that probably other people, but certainly me, you know, has an ability to sort of make facial expressions that expose what I'm feeling. So when I did these photographs, the portraits in particular, it started off as being that I had to be in my head the person who I was depicting, because I had learned that magically, if I imagined myself to be a person or a person in certain circumstances or with a certain attitude or mood or personality, that my face expressed that. There's also a thing of practicality. If I take pictures of other people, I have to direct them. It's not as easy to do. I could try to tell them, try to think about this, or try to act as if. It's much easier to just do it with myself, and you know, I give myself that 10-second break there. It doesn't always work out. There's a lot of trial and error, you know. With Photoshop, you just keep going, and with digital photography, you know, you look at 40 exposures and you say, no, but I'm getting closer, and now next time I'll try this. And of course, there's always, there are always those benign accidents that happen in the creation of art and other things. So those are, those are good. For any type of work, and I tell my students this too, is if you don't feel like working on it anymore, there's a good chance that it's finished. That you've already kind of shot your wad, you've kind of said what you want to say in that particular piece. Sometimes, of course, there's an element of laziness or carelessness about thinking, that's enough, and maybe it needs some tweaking. So for me, time is a good thing. You come back, and I tell my students that too. You come back tomorrow, you come back next week, you take a look, and then see what you think. You look at it with fresh eyes, I think what happens with art, a lot of times you have an idea in your head, in your mind, what you want it to be, and it comes out not necessarily the same as you imagined, but maybe it's what a more profound part of yourself wanted it to be.